Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest. You've heard her before, and she's here for a second appearance, and her name is Zoe Smith. So, Zoe, how have you been today?
Hi, Keegan. Yeah, good, thank you. The weather here in the UK today is lovely. It's blue sky and sunshine, which we've actually been a bit spoilt for the UK recently. We've had quite a bit of blue sky and sunshine, so I'm trying not to get too used to it for when it disappears again.
Yeah, it's really cloudy over there all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be, yeah, and a bit cold and grey and miserable, but no, it's been lovely the last couple of weeks, so
Oh, man.
we've been blessed.
Well, that's good to hear. So, whenever you have really good weather like that, what do you like to do to help facilitate healing?
I love to, where I live, there's some really lovely places to walk. I'm only about 20 minutes drive from the beach, so it's nice to get to the beach sometimes and go for a wander. Or inland, I'm right on the doorstep of the Yorkshire Wolds and a short drive from some stunning walks. So I love to just get out and explore when it's like this.
That's awesome. Getting out into nature and just reconnecting with the energies around you and stuff like that, huh?
Yeah, it can really clear your head, can't it? When you're out in nature, it grounds you and it brings you back down to earth and in tune with the earth and the earth's frequencies, and it's a massive medicine. It's a really good boost.
Yeah, I love going on hikes whenever the weather permits and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I can't do hikes too much anymore because of physical injuries way back in the past. But there's things that people can do at home. So we've got yoga, and you even mentioned something about Reiki and QHHT, correct? On our last conversation.
Yeah.
So are these things that people can do just, by themselves, or what? Tell me a little bit about all of that.
So, Reiki is a Japanese form of energy healing, and it's working with the energy fields of the body. Now, if we look at traditional Chinese medicine, they talk about meridians in the body, which is the energy channels. And in Indian Ayurvedic traditions, they also talk about energy channels, which they call nadis. And when you look at the two, there's a lot of similarities. Very close similarities. Well, Reiki works over those energy meridians or nadis or pathways, whatever you want to call them. And within our subtle body, so we've got our physical body, which we know a lot about. We learn about it in biology at school, and we're told about it from doctors and the allopathic medicine, the Western medicine. So we know a lot about our physical body, but we're not always taught about our subtle energy body, but we've also got a subtle energy body. And when we have blockages in that energy, if we don't do anything about it, then over a long period of time, or a short period of time, depending what it is, that blockage can then manifest in the physical body as a physical ailment. So sometimes we'll have an injury that just won't go away. And maybe there's some energy that's blocked somewhere that needs releasing. Well, we can do that through getting out in nature and walking. We can do it through yoga and meditation. But sometimes if it's a stubborn energy block, then something a little bit stronger is needed. And Reiki works over the energy field. So I'm a Reiki healer. I'm a qualified Reiki master, so I now teach Reiki to others. I never really touch the person. Very occasionally my hand will be guided to touch, but usually I'm working sort of over the energy field. There's 3 different levels to the Usui Reiki that I do.
Okay.
And level 1 actually teaches you to work on yourself first. So you're taught to heal yourself before you then really work more with other people or animals or whichever way you want to go. So in the level 1, you're learning how it feels to work with your energy and how energy feels and how it feels when it's flowing versus how it feels when it's stuck. You learn about the chakra system in the body, and we've got the 7 main chakras down the central energy channel. And so we learn about those and how they work with the rest of the energy in the body. And so that can be a really good form of self-development, but also a really good form of coming back to yourself, grounding, relaxing. And a lot of people who come for Reiki or who come on my training courses say that it brings peace to their life. It just brings a kind of calmness when you've had a lot going on and a lot to think about and loads to do. If you can just find half an hour or 20 minutes just to just sit and just do some healing, it's amazing.
That's awesome. So whenever you're working on yourself, whenever you're teaching people how to recognize their energy flows and stuff, what is the feeling that you would associate with stubborn energy being blocked?
Well, that's a good question, and it's one that there isn't a direct answer to, because you as an individual, when you're working on yourself or on someone else's energy, you have your own unique way of sensing energy, and the person who you are working on also has a very unique footprint. So what you feel on one person doesn't necessarily feel the same on the other, although there can be some similarities. But if you think about energy, if you rub your hands together really fast and they start to get warm, and then if you take your hands apart and slowly bring them until you can feel it's a sensation, and it's a little bit, some people feel it like a magnet pushing away, some people feel it like a magnet wanting to pull towards, some people feel it like a fizzing or a buzzing. Sometimes you might feel heat, other people, they might feel cold. But you can start to feel energy, and you can manipulate it, you can push it together, you can pull it apart, and you can still really feel it, and you can just play with it. And so when you're doing Reiki, the first time that you do it, you probably think, it's quite common to think, not sure I'm really feeling anything, I don't know if I'm feeling. And then the more that you work with people and the more that you do it yourself, you start to notice the subtle differences in energy. So when I'm working on someone, if I feel an energy blockage, then when I'm holding my hands over them, I feel like a really intense sensation that's a kind of a buzzing, it might be a heat, and just a real prickling. Sometimes if they're in pain, I'll feel a shooting pain in my hand. And that's how I feel it. Whereas I had a student recently who, when working over somebody's body, when they got to an area where there was a blockage, they felt nothing. But yet, all the way over the rest of that person's body, they could feel energy. So it varies quite a lot, and it's quite unique to each of us. But only by tuning into it and then using it and working with it do you start to really understand it. Well, I say really understand it because we'll never truly understand it, but I suppose get to know it better and how it feels to you.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And you also you put it really well, as in we won't really understand it in the way of like we'll be able to control it in a sense, but we'll be able to get familiar with it. We can work with it.
Yeah.
And be in coexistence with it. So it's really cool that everyone can sit there and have a different, unique experience with it. So how do you get someone to get past that mental blockage of like, oh, it's just in my imagination. Oh, that's not real, because they're feeling it. And so there's something there, but throughout our lives, we've always been told we can't see it. It doesn't exist. So a lot of people will sit there and go, that feeling I got, I've had it throughout my life, but they just brush it off their shoulder. How do you get someone to be like, no, that's the thing you need to pay attention to?
It's hard, actually, that. And when I first started with Reiki, and especially when I first started teaching, I used to want to convert everybody. To be like, oh, it really works, you should try it. I can make your shoulder better, let me have a go. And I quickly realised that if I'm trying to preach to someone who absolutely doesn't believe it, who is completely science, allopathic medicine, physical body, then there's no point. I can plant seeds, but there's no point trying to convince them, because we each have to come to it at our own time and in our own space. And the other thing is, it works on 3 different levels. It works on physical body, mind, and soul. So I can't determine where that healing goes when I'm healing someone. They might have, let's say they've injured their knee. So I can be working on their knee, but if they've also had emotional trauma in their life recently, or they've been going through a stressful period, or something's happened, then that healing may well go to their emotional side rather than the knee. And I can't determine that, and neither can they. The higher self determines where that healing goes. It's wherever the body, mind or soul needs it most, which makes it even more challenging, because if I'm saying to someone, Reiki can really help your knee, come to me for Reiki and I'll help with your knee. Then they come to me for Reiki and it goes to a stressful situation in their life that they didn't talk to me about. So I don't know that they're going through stress. And then obviously it doesn't heal the knee, but it goes to the emotions. But when we receive healing on our emotional level, that is very, very subtle. Because when you're going through stress, trauma, an emotional event, we all know we have good days and we have bad days when we're going through it. And that's natural, isn't it? It's part of a healing process. Yeah. And you have days where you have good moments and bad moments. So when you're receiving energy healing on an emotional level, it's very subtle. And unless someone is tuned in to their own emotional self very well, that's easy to miss. So it's easy for them to say, I came to you to help with my knee and it didn't work. Full stop, didn't work. So I've sort of learned that there's no point trying to convince people. If people ask for my advice, if they'll say to me, I've injured my knee, do you think Reiki will help? Then I'll explain to them how it works. The fact I can't control where it goes and neither can they. And the 3 levels, and then I'm putting them in the mindset that actually now I need to think, because my knee hurts, but I've been going through trauma recently, so I've had a really stressful time at work. Okay, so it might go there. And then they're having to like work through it, and it's more about self-development than sort of miraculous healing, although miraculous healing is possible and happens. Yeah, it's a real challenge with the Reiki. And for someone who's coming to it for the first time, getting your head out the way is the hardest bit, because if you go for it with an open mind, thinking, right, I'm going to try this, because if this works, it's going to be amazing. And I believe it could work because other people are saying it's helped them. So I'm going to go and try it. But then there's this little niggling voice in the back of your head that's like, how on earth is this going to heal my knee? Or how is this going to help? She's waving her hands over me. How can that help? And so getting the head out the way is the hardest. But then once someone's had it the first time and seen benefits and felt it, it's then much easier. And I also notice with the Reiki, I have clients who come back to me time and again. And I see with those clients who have it fairly regularly that the changes in the beginning are subtle. But the more that they come, the faster the response and the deeper the response. So it's like it's a cumulative. I think of it as cumulative, but I suppose what it's really doing is very gradually rebalancing the energy at a systemic level. So I suppose the more frequently you have it, the less there is to rebalance, so the more profound the change.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like pouring cleaner water into dirty water. Even though it may take a while, eventually most of the stuff will get out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. In fact, I went on a training course recently, and this was about essential oils. It wasn't Reiki, but it was a similar analogy. And the guy on the course was saying, when we're born, if you think about a baby's body, and a baby's like just been born, they're pure, they haven't really inhaled too many pollutants, they haven't eaten too many toxins, and so the hydration in their body is clear and fresh and pure. And then over time, as we grow into adults and we get older and older, we've breathed in pollution, we've eaten poor choices of food perhaps, we've consumed substances or whatever over the course of a life, whether that's pharmaceuticals, alcohol or whatever. And so the hydration in our bodies is no longer a crystal clear blue gorgeous hydration, it's kind of a brown sludge. So then detoxing all of that sludge becomes more and more important for keeping our bodies working. So I guess it's a similar kind of thing actually when you think of it. like that. I like that analogy.
Well, you did mention essential oils. So with essential oils, do they have anything to do with Reiki, or do you use essential oils with your Reiki practice?
I do. This is something that I know there are other practitioners that do it, and it's something that I just naturally came to of my own sort of accord. So you don't have to use oils with Reiki. The Reiki can stand alone, but I've got a treatment that I've developed over time where I'll have somebody lay on the couch, and there's different essential oils that you can use for different conditions or issues. And they, again, the essential oils work on a mental health level as well as a physical body level.
No.
And this, do you know, I have so many essential oils now. I've lost count. And I keep getting more and more because I always think of it, I have a shelf in my treatment room with all my oils on, and that's my first aid shelf, and it's where I go whenever I need anything. And so I tailor the oils that I use to whatever that client is experiencing, and I layer the oils up, and I work along their spine, out over their back of the neck. Sometimes I'll get them to take some deep breaths and inhale the scent of the oil, and then I rub the excess oil down their feet, because obviously with our feet we've got a lot of receptors on the soles of our feet that go straight to different parts of our body. The same down our spine as well. Our spine links straight into our nervous system, and that goes straight to every part of the body. So by putting the oils in those places, it makes sure that they get straight into the system where they're needed. So then what I'll do, I put a hot towel over their back and sort of smooth that down, and then I'll do Reiki up their spine after I've done it. Sometimes a hot compress isn't a good idea, depending what the oils are that I've used and depending what their condition is. And in that case, I'll just cover them with a warm blanket and let them just absorb the oils for about 15 minutes before I do the Reiki. But I've found that the power of the oils and the power of the Reiki, when you put them together, it just, it's amazing. The results are just so quick and so profound. It's brilliant. It works so well on all sorts of things. I've got clients who come with bulging discs in their spine, clients who've got inflammation in different parts of their bodies, clients with emotional issues, stress, anxiety, depression, and they just find that the oils really help. And some of the clients that I work with will buy some of the oils from me, take them and apply themselves to the soles of their feet. And if they can't reach their back, they put them down the front, and maybe do that 2 or 3 times a week for a couple of weeks, and then 2 or 3 times a month. But yeah, they're just little powerhouses.
That's really cool. I personally love essential oils. Like, I've got, what is it that I got in my pocket right now? Inspiration and creativity. So
Wow.
yeah, just a little bottle right there with me. And it's crazy what a little oil can do. And it's one of those things that just, it's so every day we come across something that can just change our lives, and we don't realize it because we're not utilizing it. We're not acknowledging what is actually there. And so you're sitting here trying to show and tell all these people about this, and you're working miracles for these people, which is awesome. And with mixing the Reiki and the essential oils, I think it kind of probably helps people get out of their head a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Because now you have something physical to go along with the energy that you can't see. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of a science trick right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, because they can smell it, they can see it, they can feel it. And especially if they've come to me for Reiki as a standalone, which some of them do. It's really interesting with my regular clients, because they come in regularly and they can see the impact on their body, mind and soul. They get really good at telling me what they need. So they'll be like, Zoe, I've booked Reiki today. I don't need the oils today. My back's fine. And the Reiki will just give it a little top up. But then if they've had something happen, if they've pulled the back at work or something and they need an instant fast, they'll be like, Zoe, I need your Reiki Roma today because I really need the oils. And so I've really noticed with my regulars, they can tune in and they know what they need. But yeah, I think for someone who's never experienced Reiki before, They come to me for the oils thinking it's going to be a lovely massage, and it is a relaxing treatment, but it's not a massage, and I don't sell it as that, and I don't describe it as that. And then they realise how it feels when they leave, and they always say to me, wow, it felt like going to a spa, and the Reiki felt like I'd had a massage afterwards because I can move my neck again or whatever. And so it's nice to see that. But yeah, I think you're right, maybe the essential oils do give a hook that people can fix to as a tangible thing they can see and feel. Yeah.
And you actually, as you were talking about your essential oils with your Reiki, I was like, man, sounds like she is just having a little spa over there. And yeah, I was along the same lines. I was like, it sounds like you're doing a lot more for a person than just their energy or their physical body, because you're working on so much at once.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to leave a session with you if you're not, it's hard to leave a session feeling bad, I should say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope so anyway. I don't think I've ever had anyone actually leave and say that it wasn't what they expected or they didn't experience something good.
Mm-hmm.
And the oils just smell so divine as well.
Oh, yeah.
And especially when you're working with a few and you're layering them. I love selfishly, when I've done the treatment and then I take the client out and then I'll come back in to tidy up and I walk back into the treatment room and I'm like, it just smells so divine. It smells like a spa. And so it definitely, I find it really uplifting to be doing it, to work with the oils and to be delivering the healing. It's had such a peaceful effect on my life. And I've had an experience recently which I will share.
Okay.
About 2.5 weeks ago, my mum passed away, bless her. So we lost my mum. We knew she was terminally ill before that, but it doesn't make it any easier when it actually happens. So it kind of shook me much more than I was expecting it to, and it hit me emotionally a lot harder than I was expecting it to. And I took a bit of time off from work, but I did notice that I still did my sound bath the first Sunday evening after it had happened. I had people booked on it and I didn't want to let them down, and I thought, right, I'll do it. I did it, and at the end of the sound bath I felt peace. I just felt like everything that had been happening the last few days, it had just brought me back down to earth, and I felt peace. And then a couple of days later I had a Reiki client booked in who was a regular, and again I know that person's circumstances and I knew they needed that Reiki, and it was using the oils. And when that person left, I felt calm. The oils that I'd been working with had helped me as much as the person, and the same with the yoga. And so you often hear stories of people who are doing my kind of work who burn themselves out, and people will often warn you and say, healers, they give too much and then they make themselves ill. And that is something that's always been in the back of my mind when I've been doing the work. Yeah. But just this last couple of weeks has shown me that if you're doing it in the right way, and if you're also mindful of your own well-being, then it can be such a peaceful experience for you giving as much as the person receiving. And it's really opened my eyes to that, and it's really also reinforced to me how important it is to keep my own practice up, to make sure I'm using the oils for myself, to make sure that I'm using my Reiki on myself and everything else. So yeah, it's been a learning curve.
Man, first of all, my deepest condolences on your mother.
Thank you.
I know we've spoken off camera on that, but I know that can't be easy whatsoever, and I'm just glad that you're here and still healing others and yourself. And it really is a testament to show that your healing others does come back to you in some way, shape, or form, whether you know it or not. And that's one of those things too, is that you're constantly sending stuff out, and you never know when or how that stuff is going to come back to you. And I think that a lot of what you've done before all that has kind of been just in reserve, maybe, just like, all right, she needs some good feel energy now, so send it her way. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does really highlight that you need to take care of yourself. But I think that maybe taking breaks in routines, maybe, I don't know. But there's a lot that goes on there, and I'm just floored by you continuing on, because I know that would have been extremely difficult. So you doing that healed other people, it healed you, and now you're on the show again, and who knows who's going to hear this message and just be like, I need to get some Reiki and essential oils.
Yeah, definitely. I can recommend it.
And on that note, essential oils, what are your go-to real quick?
I have a few. Frankincense is one of my absolute favourites because it's called the power oil, and so it's amazing on its own, but you pair frankincense with any other essential oil and it doubles the power of the oil that you're putting it with. So if you need a really quick go-to, frankincense can be amazing. I love copaiba for pain relief. Lavender and peppermint I can't be without, because if I have a migraine, I get migraines every now and then. I had a really bad one last week. And so I'll just rub a little bit of peppermint, lavender and copaiba just onto here, and then right on the back of my neck, sort of base of my skull. And then I go lie down, and it just takes that sting. And you feel like the heat in the peppermint, the menthol, makes you feel cool. It makes your skin feel cool, and it just takes that pain straight away. So that's a good one. And then lemon and wild orange, I like to use those. I'll just put 5 drops in a big glass of water on a morning, because they contain limonene, which is really good for removing acid and yeast from the body, which is the build-up of those can lead to illness over time. They've been linked with cancer and different things like that. So it's a kind of preventative thing that I do. So I like to do that. And lemon is also really good antibacterial. You can use it for cleaning the kitchen, dilute it with water. And then my last one that I can't live without is oregano, because that's an antibacterial. Some people say it's like an antibiotic, but it's brilliant at staving off colds or bugs or
Really?
anything you don't want. Yeah, it's really good for that. If I'm not feeling 100%, I'll just put a drop of oregano on the roof of my mouth. Now, I do that and I can handle it, but oregano oil is hot. And there's a lot of people will be like, you do what? So maybe don't try that one yourself, or just try it with a tiny little bit, because it'll blow your head off. But it is a really good way of keeping well. Yeah, please don't take my medical advice on that one.
Thank you for providing a disclaimer on that, because I myself was probably going to be like, I might want to try this. But I myself, if I know that it's not the same, but if I need to clear out my sinuses, I'll get some wasabi and put it on the roof of my mouth. And I know it's not an essential oil, but it's the quickest way. Yeah, it's the quickest way to clear it.
Yeah, there's an essential oil. I use the company doTERRA because their oils are pure and they're amazing oils. And they do an oil called Zengest, which I think is a blend. But if I used to suffer a lot with sinus troubles when I was teaching children, because I don't know why, but I did. And if I just put some Zengest just on here, and here, that would really clear your sinuses really quickly. It's really good for that.
I think I'll have to look into that, because the wife kind of looks at me weird whenever I just have a tube of wasabi going around. So whenever it comes to all of this, what exactly was QHHT? We mentioned it way earlier in the episode. Have we evolved into the QHHT?
Yeah, it's sort of separately, but kind of alongside with the energy and the Reiki in my head anyway. So QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and it was developed by the late Dolores Cannon, and she developed it over the sort of last 40 years of her life. She lived into her 80s. She only passed away a few years ago, and she sort of discovered it by accident, but over time discovered that using hypnotherapy in a certain way, she was able to regress people back to either a past life or different past lives, or an earlier time in this life that is relevant to them today. Okay. So with QHHT, what we'll do, it's a 5-hour session.
Wow.
But it's a one-off. It's not like you would need to book a block of sessions and do half an hour every week or whatever. So you just clear out your diary for a day. And you come, and so I'll sit down with the person and we go through their life. They talk me through their life, when they were born, all the key people in their life so far, key events. We go through all of that so that when I then put them into the Delta state, if they're talking about any of that, I then know that it's this life and not a past life. So it allows me to be able to differentiate what they're telling me when they're hypnotized.
Okay.
So we go through all of that. And then before the session, I'll have already asked them to make a note of any questions they have for their higher self. And I also ask them to think about if there's any physical healing that they might need. So the second part of that session will then be looking through the questions that they'd like answers to and to understand any healing that they might like to invite. So then we'll take a short break and then we'll go into the hypnotherapy part of the session. And so then I'll sort of talk them down into a calm, relaxed state and regress them back to either a past life or some point in this life. Now, a little bit like the Reiki, I don't get to choose where they go, and neither do they. So their higher self takes them to see something they need to see that's directly relevant to something that's happening in their life now or that happened in the past that they need answers to, and it helps them to understand. So we'll then explore fully wherever we've ended up. And if it was a past life, I'll take them through that past life right the way up to death. And then I take them through death to the other side. That's all done really carefully. So, for example, if you had somebody who was burnt at the stake or drowned or, you know, some horrible ending, then I don't put them through the pain of that again. They're able to watch that as an observer, if you like. They don't actually feel the trauma from it. And then we go through to the other side. So that they can see that after that death, they were perfectly safe and perfectly happy, usually, on the other side. And then I will invite their higher self to come forward and I'll ask permission to ask questions of the higher self. And they always say yes. I haven't had anybody that has said no. And that at that point, I'm then able to, if the person wanted some physical healing, I'll start by asking the higher self if it's possible for some healing. Now, sometimes it's possible, usually it's possible, but occasionally somebody will have chosen before they came into this life, they'll have chosen to experience a certain set of things. So if what they are asking for healing from now was a choice to be experiencing that, then they won't be able to have healing on it in the session. And because before we come into this life, we all choose the key lessons that we want to learn. And whilst we're here, we might not like those lessons. And quite often, I think a lot of us would have wished to change them, but we've chosen them.
Yeah.
So I'll ask for healing, and if that's possible, the higher self will let me know. And then they'll get started on doing that healing, whilst I then ask all of the questions that the person wanted answers to. And I find working with the higher self, with source, with soul, with whatever people want to call it, I call it higher self. That's what Dolores used to call it. And that feels fine with me. So that's how I refer to it. But I always get answers. We always get answers to the questions. And it's amazing during that point. I had a client once who'd had a spinal injury. So we'd asked for healing, and then I was asking the questions, and as I'm asking the questions and watching my client, his body started moving and twitching, and I could see there was something happening, and it was all sort of radiating out from his spine, and different things were moving. And so then asked all the questions, and then towards the end I'll ask the higher self, you know, have you had enough time to finish your healing? And they'll let me know. And then once that's all complete, I can bring them out of the relaxed state back into the world, do that nice and quietly and carefully. Then we'll have a chat, and I keep them hypnotised for no longer than 2 hours.
Okay.
From the start to the finish. But when I bring them round, I'll say to them, how are you feeling? And they'll say, yeah, relaxed, tired, or good, or however they're feeling. And then, I wasn't under very long, was I? How long was I under? And I'll say, how long do you think? And they'll say, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I'll be like, no, it was 2 hours. And they'll be like, oh. And then I always say, now you won't remember everything. Oh, I can remember everything. Okay. So I always give them a recording of the session. And Dolores discovered as well that if you have a recording of the session and you take it away with you, and you then listen to it when you're in a relaxed state, so for most of us, that's just before you go to bed or whilst you're in bed and you're trying to sleep. Put it on, leave it playing, fall asleep to it. But the more that you listen to it for the several days or couple of weeks after, the more healing you get and the more answers you get, the more information comes through. So that's amazing. But yeah, the learning that you can achieve from one of those sessions is just phenomenal. Dolores wrote books after books about it. She must have hypnotized thousands and thousands of people. And she's written books about different past lives that she uncovered, and she had people who had really prominent past lives, and she was able to take them back several times to the same life and learn a lot. And so she wrote loads of books about it, and it was her books that sort of triggered this whole holistic therapy journey for me. Aside from the yoga, I'd already discovered yoga. Yoga was already a part of my life, and the meditation. But then during lockdown, it was when I discovered Dolores Cannon. And I started reading her books and listening to podcasts and whatnot of her talking. And I was just fascinated about this whole other world, and eventually then did my training, and now I use it as a practitioner. So it's been a really interesting eye-opener for me, because I'd never thought about some of the things she talks about before. And I think having that and having seen past lives and listening to my clients when they're hypnotized, and that has also been a massive comfort to me, dealing with my mum passing as well. So yeah, it helps you think differently about life. So then going back to how that links with the Reiki, it's like everything's energy. Energy isn't created and it doesn't end. It just changes forms constantly. And that links with the past lives. So there may well be people on the planet who are here for the first time. But for most of us on the planet, we've been here once, twice, countless times before, and every time we come, it's to learn something different or to serve humanity in a different way. Whether we're open to those lessons when we get here, when life gets hard, because it does get hard, and it gets hard for all of us. And sometimes it would be so much easier not to have to go through some of the things that we do. But when we think of it in that way, that we chose to be here, we're here to learn, we're here to serve, it's a much easier way of dealing with stuff when life does get hard, or at least that's how I find it.
Wow, that is really interesting stuff, and it is something that I've got to say, I would love one of those sessions at some point, and it's like, I've got to figure out how to go all the way across the pond. Oh boy.
There are so many practitioners all around the world. You've got loads in America.
Oh, well, then I'm just going to have to find one that's close to me.
Yeah.
Because I would have a heyday with it. I would love to figure it all out.
Just so special. I had it done on me before I qualified, because I wanted to. I wanted to. How could I do it if I hadn't had it done on me? So when I went in, the practitioner who did it, she's now become a really good friend of mine. And nice. I went in armed with like A4 pages of questions, and she just went, "Oh, you have thought about your questions." I was like, "Yep, I'd like all of these, please." Because there is just so many things in life, isn't there, that you think, why did that happen? Or what was I meant to learn from that? Yeah.
Then
it was good.
Did you get most of those answered?
Yeah, all of them. All of them were answered, yeah. And at the time, I'd had some issues with my back, and I'd asked for healing on that, and I had healing on that in the session as well.
Wow.
So that was good. I'd asked for healing. My eyesight isn't good. I'm like a +10 long-sighted, I wear really thick lensed glasses or I wear contact lenses, and without those I can't see a thing. So I did ask for 20/20 vision as well. But apparently I've chosen to have really bad eyesight in this life.
Man, that's interesting. I wonder what purpose that would serve. Did you ask that question?
I did, because I wanted to know, if healing was possible, and if not, why not?
Uh-huh.
Thinking about the times that we're in at the moment.
Huh.
I'm 45 later this year, so I've been on the planet since 1980. And if you think about the sort of stuff that we've been going through in that time, Dolores talks a lot about the new Earth and transitioning from timeline to timeline, and like the old way of doing things to the new. Well, the astrology now tells us that where we are currently is a really pivotal point in that shift to the new Earth. So we've moved out of the age, I think we moved out of Pluto in Capricorn, and we're now in Pluto in Aquarius, and that's a big shift which doesn't happen very often. It's over hundreds of years. And I think some of the things that we see over this time frame have been pretty brutal, and hopefully that's going to settle down now going forwards. I'm touching wood, hopefully, but we don't know. And so I think I had chosen to not see clearly because I didn't want to see clearly some of what is going on around us. And actually that fits, when I think about that more over the last couple of years, that fits a lot with how I live my life, because I'm aware of what's going on politically and globally around me, but I don't watch the news. I don't really watch much TV. I don't listen to the news on the radio.
It's just such a big bummer.
I just find that what I need to know always seems to find me, even without going looking for that news. What I need to know finds me one way or another, whether it's through a headline I skim past on social media, or whether it's somebody who tells me about it at work, or, there's always a way that it finds me.
Yeah.
It's never been a handicap to me from not tuning into those things. And I just kind of plod on and get on with my own, stuff that I'm doing. So I'm always got my head in a book. I'm always reading more about yoga or Reiki or some other thing, and then I'll be implementing that in some way, either in my life or with the people that I'm working with. And so it's kind of like, in a way, I've got my head down getting on with my stuff without looking around and going, because you meet people, don't you, in life, and every time you see them, they'll be like, have you heard about the war in so-and-so, and have you heard about this, and have you heard about what that politician's doing, and this world leader, that's not good for us, and this isn't good for us. And they have never got anything positive to say, because they are so occupied by what the media is telling them. And I think often in the media, the messages can be changed slightly. And so I think sometimes being a little bit distant from all of that is easy.
It definitely clears up a bunch of bandwidth in your head, right?
Yeah.
And that allows you the room for facilitating healing for yourself, which facilitates healing for others, which facilitates healing for who knows how many branches out it's going to go.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah. I think of it like the sound baths. Sound baths work on frequency, and the sound ripples out through waves. And when I do a sound bath, it's healing for me doing it, but it's healing to everyone in the room. But then when they walk out of that room, they're carrying with them that peace and calm and reflection. And it's healing for everyone that they come into contact with when they leave as well. And it's a ripple effect like that.
Yeah, so that actually makes me come up with a really interesting conundrum question, right? So we have this ripple effect, and so let's say you had 10 people go to a sound bath session, and so those 10 people are going to be going out into the world spreading that good energy. Well, the problem is the world is pretty nasty and all that. So there's going to be influences of negative energy and negative media and all that going towards those 10 people, but at the same time they're radiating good out. So how does someone actually sit there and kind of I guess, shield or block themselves or amplify their personal peace, their good energies, to where it helps stabilize what's around them and they're not too influenced by what's going on outside of themselves.
I think higher frequencies, if you can vibrate at a higher frequency and you're around people who are vibrating at a higher frequency, the higher frequencies will win out over the lower frequencies, but the lower frequencies are more persistent because they're trying to pull you back down. And I know that I've only started to understand this in maybe the last 10-15 years, but I work so hard to keep my energy protected from the negativity. There's loads of different ways you can do that. One that I really like, I'll always put a pyramid of light around myself, and I make sure that it goes right around me and underneath. And I'll put a pyramid of light around my car, around my house, just so that it's protecting my energy and in those places to try and prevent the negative from penetrating. Now, there'll always be negative energy that tries to come through, and occasionally it will do. But the more aware of it that you are, the harder it is for that to happen. And the more you tune into it, the more you start to understand. I know, for example, yesterday morning I had a text message from a friend overseas, and he was having a hard time and feeling quite down, and I read his message and replied to it. And then after I'd replied, I had this overwhelming urge to cry. And I sat there for a moment, and at first I thought, oh, not again, come on, Zoe, pull yourself together. And then I thought, hang on a minute, that's not my emotion today. And then I just said, I'm returning this energy to its rightful owner, it's not mine. And it went. And so in the past, when I was younger, I would have just had a cry. And suddenly wondered why I felt thoroughly miserable. And I'd really taken on board that energy, and I would have thought it was just mine, and I was sad and whatever. But yesterday, I was aware it wasn't mine. It's just moments like that where I start to realise how my emotional intelligence and my understanding of energy has really grown, and it's only through all of these different practices that I've been able to do that.
That's awesome. And it does take a lot of discernment, which takes a lot of experience, which takes a lot of quote unquote mistakes, because we don't intentionally make mistakes, because if we knew it was a mistake, we wouldn't have done it. So whenever it comes to figuring out your emotion though versus someone else's energy, how did you do that? Your emotional intelligence is up, you've been practicing, you've got discernment and all that, but you felt something come up on you and it wasn't yours. So was it kind of like someone ran up behind you, knocked on the door, and you're like, who's that? Yeah, not for me. Bye. Or
I think, I don't know whether it was maybe because I've cried a lot over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, and I've had moments over the last couple of weeks where I've had good moments, and then the next minute I'm having a moment where I've just remembered something that Mum and I did, and then it's reminded me she's not here, and then I'll have a little cry. But yesterday I felt like I wanted to cry, and then I thought, why are you crying? What is it? Because nothing's happened. You were in a good mood 10 minutes ago. You were doing this, because I was sat at the laptop working on something. You were doing this. Why are you now wanting to cry? And then I remembered the last thing that I'd done before that moment was send that text. And then I thought, no, this isn't my pain that I'm feeling. I'm picking up on his pain. And I need to send it back.
So being a healer, you've essentially made yourself sensitive to other people.
I've always been sensitive, right from being a kid. But when I was younger, I didn't understand it. So my dad always used to say to me, what are you crying for? You're just so sensitive. And I've always picked up on it, but I didn't understand it. And now, when I look back on my childhood, I understand that there were certain places that we used to go as a family, or there were people we used to visit, and I did not want to go to certain places, just didn't want to go. And now I understand that there was something in the energy there, or something going on in people's emotions there that I was picking up on that really didn't feel good. But now I understand all that, and it's so liberating. But I think I have a niece, she's only 5, and she's an amazing little character, so intelligent. I kid you not, you can have 3 adults and her in the room, and you can have an adult interacting with her and the other 2 having a conversation, and she can be talking to the adult interacting with her and answering the other conversation at the same time, and she's following it all. She's amazing. And understanding what I understand now about energies, and I think it's amazing. I would love to be able to foster with her intuition into those energies and help her grow with that as she grows up, so that she doesn't have that gulf that I had between sort of tuning into it as a child intuitively, as a young child, and then gradually having it pushed out of me until I came back to it and then chose to understand it. It would be amazing to work with younger people and help them tune into that energy from a very young age, so that they're able to really understand themselves as they grow up. Because I think a lot of the mental health issues that are prevalent amongst our youngsters, and they have increased massively over the last 10. And yeah, we can blame social media, we can blame lockdowns, we can blame whatever we want to blame. But actually some of these problems started before all of that. And just taking the time to teach them and to help them tune in and understand their intuition and their emotions and their feelings and their energy, I think that would really benefit those young people going forward. I think it can only be a good thing. It would be amazing to be able to try.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Speaking of that, why don't we try to have our next conversation be about that? Like, how would we have talked to ourselves as younger versions and let them know, like, hey, what you're feeling is totally real.
Yeah.
The people around you, they're not trying to make you not believe something. They're not trying to harm you or anything in that manner. They just don't experience it and they don't understand it themselves. And because that was kind of the same thing on my end. I've been super sensitive and I'm just now stepping into the whole like coming to accept it all. And for me, sensitive is a trigger word because it's, oh, stop being so sensitive. And it's like,
Same.
oh, well. And so it's like, saying sensitive makes me go like, yeah, I'm sensitive, you know? But
I totally get that.
But if we could tell our younger selves how to acknowledge it, how to grow it, how to utilize it, I know I would be in a totally different situation. But at the same time, I would still be wanting to help people, but I wouldn't have the platform that I do because everything happened for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think some of us have had to go through those hard times to come out the other side, to understand it, to go back and help some of the others who haven't come through it yet. And that's really important. And especially since the services we've got that are supposedly set up to do just that and can't or don't, doing what we do is even more important now than it's ever been. And the way that things are economically and whatever.
Yeah.
It's a really crucial time for that.
So do you think we could get you back on the show next time and we could sit there and discuss how would we talk to our younger selves, or how would we talk to the new generation coming up to foster those energies, those mental health tricks and tips? Because it's on the rise now, so why not teach it to the younger ones? Because this could absolutely change the world, you know?
I agree.
So.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are unfortunately right near the end of this episode. So everyone out there watching, happy Easter. I know this is kind of like a Easter special unannounced. So everyone out there, the eggs, open them if you have them. But Zoe, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor having you on again. And by all means, my deepest condolences again. And I know that your mom would absolutely love what you're doing and continue supporting everything. Thank you for being on. Everyone out there, happy Easter. And thank you for listening to WDJY 99.1 FM. This is Keegan on Retrieving Sanity with Zoe Smith. Oh, and Zoe, why don't you tell them your website again?
It's www.yourvitalitycoaching.
There we go. I kind of messed it up a little bit last time, so sorry about that. But as always, y'all have a great rest of your day or whenever you're listening to this. And as always, love each other, and we'll see you next week. Schlan. All right. And boop.